Hey there everybody, it's Wayne D. Welcome to the website. It's WayneD.com, and today I wanted to look at a redo of Patrick Cantlay, who's still young at 27 years old and now ranked 6th in the world. He's got an amazing record. He's made 83%, I think I counted up, of his cuts in his time on the tour. And that's after missing 3 full years. He had a fracture in his spine. There's a very interesting video done by Greg Rose at TPI. I suggest maybe you go look at it. And it has to do with how Patrick and his coach changed his swing in order to lessen the stress on his back. So I found a video of his. Now, I did Patrick's swing in 2012. That was his rookie year on the tour. And this video on the right here, thanks to Terry Rolls, is from 2011. And we can note some really consequential changes that he's made. So first thing you'll note is the posture. Distance from the hands from the body. So his arms are more stretched out. He's more bent over by quite a bit, as you can see. A little more knee flex, but I would say that the balance point maybe has shifted slightly forward as well. And now the big difference here, and what Greg explained, was that Patrick, in his old swing, which possibly led to the back injuries, had not much differential between the upper body turn and the lower body turn in the backswing. So there wasn't a very big what you would call an X factor stretch. So you see very limited hip movement. And then what would happen in the downswing is when he would start the downswing with the lower body, he would create a ton of separation between the top and the bottom, which is very powerful. Now, Patrick is a good sized athlete at 6 feet 190. It's very strong. But they were thinking that all of that torque he would put into the backs, into the transition, was putting undue stress on the lower back, which I thought was interesting. So you can't really complain about this swing. Very good. And then when we look at the new one, so the thing to notice here in the backswing of the new swing is how much more turn and depth that he's going to move into the right hip. So everything is going to move at the same time. You'll see the hands are going to move slightly down and inward, whereas before, when you look at the backswing, the hands would move out away. And then you can see very limited movement into that right hip flexor. So now he's going to move the club a little bit differently. He's got it more away from him and bent out over it. Now he's going to move the arms more inward. The club still stays outside of his hands, you can see that. But watch the amount of separation between the right and left leg. So the amount of turn in the pelvis and the deepening of the hip there. So what they found was, with more, and look at the length of the swing as well. So the whole thing is deeper and longer. So more turn in the backswing. So in the forward swing, when the movement happens in transition, you get less X factor stretch, which means that you're not adding a bunch of stretch to the lower back and the left side as you start down. It's still there, but it's way less. So that's taken stress off of his back, and he's become really a force out on the tour. He almost won a couple weeks ago. So again, longer swing, more turn in the backswing, less torque in the downswing, but still extremely powerful. So let's take a look. I got a nice, there's a nice down the line shot of an iron here. So let's take a look at this swing. Pretty classic. Good posture. This ball might be a fraction above his feet, but you can still see that he appears to be balance point out over the ball towards the balls of the feet. This camera is very stable, so we can draw a few lines here and just take a look at how he moves around during the swing. So this backswing is pretty classic. As you watch the club, it's going to move back right up the plane. So there's a slight inward movement, and as the hands move toward the body, as the upper trunk moves in more of a one-piece type takeaway, you can see the additional depth in the right hip. So I would say for most people that would be just a great backswing start to copy. Gets the club pretty close to exactly right on plane. And you can see how the right arm has folded. So he's always had a soft right arm that bends back, and then in the start down you'll see the right arm up here is going to adduct, and he's going to add a little external rotation. So when you see the right elbow driving down and inward like this in this direction, and you know that the right arm is driving down and forward. Look at how the hips are exactly in the box. That's another classic. A slight move away. We'll see that in most good players. You'll just slightly move back, create room for the right arm. And something that Cantley does as well as anybody is he is able to control the flexion in the lead wrist there, add to it, and get a nice impact. You see the right arm will straighten a little bit sooner than some players. But that's just I think that just comes from, that's how you release the club when you're a kid. You know, sometimes your right arm players will have the right arm stay bent, and sometimes they'll let it fly. But you will see it straighten and move around to the left very nicely as the hips stay back in the box. So with the deepening of the hip, you will see some lowering in the backswing. Not a ton, but some. Not much in the forward swing. And when you watch the shaft, just a subtle shallowing move. So that would indicate there that he's not trying to supinate the right forearm as much as a player that would lay that club in the start down, would lay it back with a harder catch and get it more behind him. He's going to keep the club from getting flat, bring it down between his arms. So, and again, most good players have total control of the shaft and the downswing. It never gets under the right arm. So it's a very simple swing. Let's play that one through a couple times. It's a very smooth motion off the ball. And again, all one piece. You'll see the right hip move in tandem with the upper trunk. And this is something I think is a good thing for most people to attempt, rather than to delay or restrict the lower body. Just to get it moving along with the takeaway. Sets up a nice smooth motion. And if we look at the face on, now one thing that you'll see about Cantlay is that he is one deliberate player. You watch this here. I'm going to let this run. So this is kind of a reminder of what Jordan Spieth looks like. I always thought Spieth looked kind of fidgety over the ball. And Cantlay's he's about the same thing. He'll stand there and fidget around. There's a video on YouTube where he takes 45 seconds to hit a drive. And I mean, that's something that he'll just hit it when he's ready, and if he doesn't get penalized, he's going to take his time. So if we look at that classic grip, neutral to, it's probably 3 knuckles. Watch the takeaway. It's going to have a lot of width with the right hip getting deep. Now in the forward swing, you're going to see more, and this is just sort of left over from the way he's always swung. You're going to see the right leg hold more. The pelvis is going to move, but the lateral movement is not huge there. Now again, as a driver, it didn't have any iron swings from face on where you might move laterally a little bit more. And then what's very notable here is anybody that thinks that you can't be any good if your left arm is bent in the downswing, don't be so sure about that. We saw Joaquin Niemann the other week, and then now we got Cantlay, and that left arm is just never straight. And a lot of times that's just anatomy. Players don't have a straight left arm. You can see it's pretty straight at P3, but by the time it gets to the top, it softens up. So we get the rounded look here in the left arm. And then in the downswing, because the hips don't really drive forward very much, and the arms are moving into the swing without being pulled as much, that left arm looks a little buckled. But again, he's powerful and very accurate, and anybody that makes that many cuts is always in control and playing great golf. All right, so there it is.